Before we get started on our Midrash from Daniel chapter 10, Devarim 8 verse 10 says, "You will eat and be satisfied, and will bless Adonai your God for the good land he has given you." So let's do that. Abba, we have eaten and we're satisfied. We thank you for the land. Sing Yeshua's name, we thank you. Amen. All right, so as before, I've got a few slides on Daniel 10, some notes, and then we'll go into the kind of the interlinear to look at the text of Daniel 10. So here's some notes. In the third year of King Cyrus, or Koresh, it's when this takes place. And chronologically, this takes place after previous visions. You can tell that because Koresh, or Cyrus, is in power. And it actually is after the proclamation given in Ezra chapter 1, which we'll take a look at on the next slide. So the date mentioned in our text is the 24th day of the first month. And Daniel has been fasting for 3 weeks. So he had fasted through Pesach and through Hag HaMatzot, or the unleavened bread. But the text, the translation I read said he ate no choice food. But the text says Lechem Hamudat, which would be white or clean bread, which you wouldn't eat during Hag HaMatzot anyway, for at least that time period, because it's bread, it's lechem, it's not matzah. But he is still, his time of mourning started before unleavened bread. It looks like it started on or about the third day of the first month. So you can perhaps see in terms of mourning, when it's coming, you're coming on, Passover is kind of the feast of freedom. And when you're in exile a long way from home and essentially enslaved, your people are enslaved and not in the land and can't go to, the temple was destroyed, there's no tabernacle built. Previously, now this is happening after Ezra had already been given the proclamation in Ezra was already given. So you might think that it's a time of rejoicing because the temple will soon be rebuilt. But he's in mourning, as it says, and he is fasting in the sense of certainly not eating any bread, which would be not unusual, but he's also not drinking wine, as it says either, right? It says that
Neither wine.
yeah. Now it might be that meat is a translation of choice food. Sometimes the word lechem could possibly in some places be translated as just food. I want to say King James pretty much translates it as lechem as meat on occasions. It's odd, but it's really, it's word for bread. But he is also, it says, sackcloth and ashes. So it's definitely a time of mourning. Verse 3. Pleading with him in prayer.
Now, when he said he didn't anoint himself for 3 weeks, could he not bathe? Or
It's hard to say. He is by the river, where we see a lot of things actually happen prophetically. Prophets often by the river as they're getting their information from Yah. It could potentially be not bathing, but he is. If you're in sackcloth and ashes, you're not anointing yourself. You're not taking any bodily care. You're in time of intense mourning. So here's that passage I referred to, Ezra 1:1. In the first year of King Koresh, or Koresh, king of Persia, or Cyrus, in order for the word of Adonai prophesied by Yirmiyahu to be fulfilled, Adonai stirred up the spirit of Koresh, or Cyrus, king of Persia, to make a proclamation throughout the whole kingdom, which he also put in writing as follows. Here is what Koresh, king of Persia, says. Adonai, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms on earth. He has charged me to build him a house in Jerusalem, in Yehuda, or in Judah. So that is so ours takes place in the third year of King Cyrus, right?
This is yeah.
So this is in the third year of King Cyrus that our passage in Daniel chapter 10 takes place.
Could it be meaning that the temple isn't moving along very well?
I don't know. I don't know if we can.
Or just,
I mean, how would he know? You know,
I know, or maybe the dreams the visions.
the vision he's had previously, and perhaps he knows he's going to get another one, which is, as you can see, is going to be pretty significant. It's really this is chapter 10 is kind of the preamble to what we'll see.
It didn't have as much in it as what we had in the last.
No, as I said, this is kind of the preamble to what's coming. But there are some interesting things in it that that goes that way. So here's what our text says in that first passage. If I can read from the passage, it says. In the third year of Koresh, king of Persia, a word was revealed to Daniel, also called Belshazzar. The word was certain a great war. He understood the word, having gained understanding in the vision. What most translations actually don't read that way as a great war. The phrase is Tzva Gadol, which is often translated as a long time or the appointed time was long. But how is tzava usually understood or translated? Well, examples, the same word in the word tzavaot. Adonai tzavaot is with us, our fortress, the God of Yaakov. So it would be translated as what, would you think, most of the time? How do most English translations translate Adonai tzavaot?
Host.
Yeah, Lord of hosts is how it's normally translated. So of hosts is how tzavaot is normally translated. So that's kind of why some translations render this as a great war or war. Here's how the Gesenius lexicon, New American Standard translates as one of great conflict, and the Complete Jewish Bible translates as a great war, as I read a minute ago. Lexicon renders this idea or this notion as true is the edict, and relates to long warfare, that is, many calamities to be endured. And so there isn't really no way to otherwise change that, or to I'm saying this. It's a way to translate that as a long way calamities to be endured, because as we'll see, it's really this vision is going to be lasting for a long time in the future. It's not going to necessarily all happen right away in Daniel's lifetime, as we'll kind of see.
So a great war would be a good translation.
It'd be an okay translation because the word is tzava, which would be a host. It's hard. I've seen it as and lexicon's kind of translated as things like host most of the time, but also war or warfare, things of that nature. So involving something to do with warfare. And so I'm wondering if a great war, or as one of great conflict, as New American Standard puts it, is, I think, a pretty decent translation, and the lexicon kind of brings it out as saying, long warfare, many calamities to be endured. So it's a time of not of rejoicing. So Daniel is in the right mindset in a time of mourning, because the vision he's going to get is about a time of great conflict or warfare. It's not a short-term thing. It's things that will have to be endured. the looking down a little bit, this is Daniel chapter 10, verse 6. His body was like beryl, his face looked like lightning, and his eyes like fiery torches. His arms were and feet were the color of burnished bronze, and when he spoke, it sounded like the roar of a crowd. So there seems to me to be a strong parallel here between what John sees in Hitgalut or Revelation chapter 1, particularly verses 13 through 16. We'll take a look at that here. This is the Complete Jewish Bible's translation of that passage. And among the menorahs was someone like a son of man, wearing a robe down to his feet and a gold band around his chest. His head and hair were as white as snow white wool, his eyes like a fiery flame, his eyes like burnished brass refined in a furnace, and his voice like the sound of rushing waters. In his right hand he held 7 stars. Out of his mouth went a sharp double-edged sword, and his face was like the sun shining in full strength. So that is from Revelation, or Hitgalut chapter 1, which this is, I think this is the Son of Man, like the Son of Man, as it says in this passage, whereas it probably wasn't that in Daniel, but there still is a very similar sort of, the vision is similar in Daniel chapter 10 to what we see in Revelation chapter 1. So, skipping down to Daniel 10:13, it says, "The prince of the kingdom of Persia prevented me from coming for 21 days. But Michael, one of the chief princes, came to assist me, so that I was no longer needed there with," I guess I cut on, with him? 10:13. I guess I'm going to cut it off on the slide.
With the kings of Persia.
Okay, thank you. Neither there with the kings of Persia. So, who's talking this passage?
The angel.
The angel's talking, right? And so the angel it seems to me that the angel is saying that some other prince had prevented this other angel from coming to see Daniel. So it's nice this other prince had prevented Daniel's prayers from being heard or answered at least. Let's say heard is not right. But it'd be, to be answered before Michael comes to assist this prince or angel who showed up for Daniel. So the word for prince there is that the word that's often used for angel, or actually for prince, sar. It can be translated as leader, chief, commander, officer. That word is frequent as well. But it seems to indicate that an angel, or possibly an angel who's not on the good side, was assigned to Persia, and this angel, or whatever, this prince, intervened against Daniel's prayers for 3 weeks. Like this whoever was the prince of Persia, the prince of the kingdom of Persia, prevented me, the angel, coming for 21 days, but Michael, one of the chief princes, or he's also called, sometimes translated as an archangel, came to assist me, so I was no longer needed there with the,
Well, wasn't Daniel in Persia? And he worked for the king?
right. Well, he worked for a previous king. It doesn't say he's necessarily working for Cyrus at this point necessarily, but you would say that he's still kind of in service of the king, you'd say for sure. But it's possible that this prince of the kingdom of Persia had been given power over that kingdom. What commentaries say, Jewish commentaries, Rashi says that this prince of the kingdom of Persia was specifically trying to give Persia a chance to further oppress, the Jewish people. That's kind of what Rashi says as a commentary on that. we don't really give a lot of, we don't have a lot of data here to say what's going on here. How did this prince of the king of Persia prevent another angel from coming to see Daniel? He said it's just what he says it was for 21 days, which is if you look at that 21 days, where does that line up time-wise? That's the beginning of Daniel's fast, right? This is because Daniel says he's been fasting for 3 weeks, which would be 21 days. So beginning of Daniel's fast, the angel wanted to come, but was prevented to come there until at this point in time. And you could say maybe maybe that's why some translations render that first passage where this one says a great war. Some translations render that appointed time. So maybe that's what they're trying to get across, is that at the appointed time, the angel was able to show up. That's not clear to me that's the case, but they do translate it. Maybe translate it as a long time, or at the appointed time was long or far away. So this is what we know, is that this prince of the king of Persia prevented the angel who's talking to Daniel right now in 10 verse 13 from appearing to him. But he was no longer needed, and so Michael was able to allow this angel who was appointed to go see Daniel to fulfill his mission. So that's really the last of my notes. So I'd like to go to the interlinear text, unless you have something else you'd like to discuss in what I've talked about here.
Okay, this is a stupid thing, but when he had Michael come
Mm-hmm.
and to assist, and then Michael is left dealing with the kings of Persia, was Michael stronger than this angel?
I'd say yes. He's one of the chief princes, it says. So yes, he must be stronger than the angel. The angel that comes to talk to Daniel is not as strong as Michael is.
That was kind of what I got out of it.
Well, I mean, if you go back, he's one of the chief princes, or one of the archangels, you could say, in another sense. So he's of a higher grade, higher rank.
One of the commentaries, I think it's the one I bought from you, was saying they thought maybe it was Gabriel.
Well, that is possible, but this angel's not really named, I don't think.
No.
Was it Michael that was before Mary, and he's,
That was Gabriel.
okay, because he said that I have been before God.
Mm-hmm. So Gabriel is, one of the named angels, and so it's a pretty powerful one. But he's not named here in this particular text that I've seen.
Okay.
Right. So if I can bring up the interlinear. Come on, let's see. Right. This is verse 1 of the, this is Daniel 10, verse 1. And you see, the third word from right to left, it's lechoresh. That's why in the Hebrew Bible it uses that term Koresh instead of Cyrus, because that's how the Hebrew word is actually rendered. Of Koresh, le is could be of in that sense, or to. Melech, of course, is the word for king, as you might imagine. Paras is Persia. A word was revealed. This isn't translated in the linear. It uses the word for thing, but the word davar can be translated in several ways: word, or thing, or item.
I was going to say word.
Word, yeah. To Daniel, whose name was called Belteshazzar, excuse me. So Belteshazzar. So as we talked about, that's kind of a, it's in Daniel is named for Beltis being the Babylonian goddess, the queen of heaven and earth, as she is known. He doesn't seem to say one thing or another about it. He's been named, you see way back in Daniel chapter 1 is where Nebuchadnezzar has given him that name. It's similar to Belshazzar, which is the same idea as Bel, protect the king, another deity, or basically the Babylonian version of Baal is Belshazzar. Belteshazzar is, again, Beltis, who is kind of the cognate in the Babylonian pantheon for Diana, as one of the kind of the phraseology they use in the Greeks and Roman side of it. This uses the word savah here as the appointed time. Again, this translation renders savah here as, but the appointed time was long. Savah gadol, or a long war. But you could, as we talked about with the Gesenius lexicon, it could be kind of rendered as a long time of conflict is coming. And he understood the thing, the word, and the understanding. The word for understanding here is well known, bina. Bina is part kind of a phrase, hokmah, bina, and da'at, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. That's the acronym. You find that phrase in the prophets, and it's what the Chabad movement has adopted for their acronym. The B in Chabad is for bina, which is understanding. And the word for vision here is mare. We saw that last week. There are two words for vision, hazon and mare, and they're kind of used interchangeably. We saw last week in Daniel chapter 9. Here's the word is mare. And the days in those, I Daniel, was mourning for 3 weeks. In full mourning. So Yamim is, in this translation, is as full, all the days. And I mentioned he'd eaten no, this translates as pleasant bread. You see the word on the far right there, top is lechem, which is the word for bread. Hamadot would be like clean bread or white bread, possibly pure bread. But he's not eating. He says, I do not eat, lo. He does, lo akalti, I do not eat. And this is the word for meat, though. Meat is in the text. So it's not the word for bread here, it's the word for meat. Basar is the word for flesh or meat. Nor yayin, nor wine. And I did not, didn't come near my mouth, and I did not anoint any ointment until the vision, I think, was fulfilled for the 3 weeks, for 3 whole weeks. And so he's going in this fasting and mourning, and the angel is wanting to be there but can't. So it's this is a 3-week time of struggle here for Daniel. And so the 24th day in the first month. So it'd be the 24th day of Aviv or Nisan. I was by the side of a river, the great river. The word Hidekel is the one in the text. This is usually understood to be the Tigris River. Most translations I've read don't transliterate it out as the great river Hidekel, but as the Tigris. Does my translation read differently in terms of what river we're talking about? What does yours say? Okay, yeah, okay.
When it usually has that term, Great River, doesn't it usually mean the Euphrates?
It often does, yeah. But it usually, yes, it often does mean that Euphrates. Um, but I think it usually says the Great River of the Euphrates, or something along that phrase. But these are the two main rivers in that area, Tigris and Euphrates, obviously. Very, very famous and large rivers. I lifted up my eyes and looked, and behold, the word for behold is a very common one you see. Hine. Hine is the word for behold. A man, ish. One, or this is a certain echad, one man, clothed. So you can see, as is frequently the case, angelic beings often appear in the guise or the looking as a man. Because we see that with Jacob's wrestling, and this also here says a man, a certain man, or one man, clothed in linen, whose loins were girded with a belt of pure gold. Now, I don't really know the phrase uphaz. If that I assume that means something of a high quality level of this gold, or finely woven. I think is some what I think I've read as a commentary on that. It's the type of that makes it woven and so much more expensive. But I'm not 100% sure that's accurate. But it is, if an angel's wearing it, it's probably going to be pretty good. Now, would an angel wear gold that's mined from the earth? Seems odd. That's the
It's
case.
just the way he appears to convey a certain thing to who he's talking to.
Mm-hmm. It appears to have, in terms of
Some
Daniel's
authority.
frame of reference. He sees things in relationship to what he, can have if you're describing something, an indescribable thing, you describe it as the best you can with the words you have, in terms of your experience. Yeah,
That's it.
your own experience. Yeah. So, a belt of pure uphaz gold, and his body was also like beryl. The beryl, and his face as the appearance of barak, or lightning. The word for appearance there is the same word for the vision we're talking about, mare. In his face as the vision, if you will, of barak, or lightning. And his eyes, you never see eye singular in the scriptures, as lamps of fire. Lapide Esh. And his arms and feet, like in color, bronze, polished bronze. The word for bronze here is also related to the word for serpent, nechoshet. Nachash is serpent. The shet, or the ending there, is the of in the construct form. So it's a like in color bronze of polished, and the voice of his words like the voice of a crowd or multitude, hamon. And I saw, Daniel, alone, the vision. Again, the word mare for vision. Or it's for mara, excuse me. Mara. For the men, the anashim, that were with not me, saw. So the men with him were not seeing. As we said, and we read in the English text, the men didn't see, but the men who I was with began to be quaking, harada, a quaking.
Like Paul's vision, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's what
the
I was
men.
thinking.
Yeah, the men around him didn't see, but they began to know something's going on, so they were kind of terrified of that. Yeah.
Damascus when Paul saw Jesus. Everybody else didn't see anything.
Great fell on them. Great what? Great quaking fell on them. The word, you recognize the word for to fall here is naphthalah. So it's
Nephilim,
same root word. Nephilim is fallen ones. Paul 300 giants, of course, in the Aramaic text, but this is the same word for a great falling on them. It fell upon them, and so they fled to hide. Therefore, I was left alone, and I saw, again, word marah here for vision. Great. Hagedolah, Hazot, the this, and no strength remained for my comeliness or my appearance.
So that's why he couldn't run away and fight with the rest of the men, because his strength was gone.
Yeah. He was understanding what was going on. He'd had sort of things similar to this in the past, I think, similar feelings, but this is definitely, he was basically all his strength had left him. He couldn't get up and move. He had no strength. His face was was deathly. I retained no strength. And I heard the voice, kol, word for voice, very common word for voice, of his words when I heard. So the word, okay, this, the Devar is translated as things in other places, but this is translated in the interlinear as words of his words, Devarov, when I heard the voice of his words, then I was in a deep sleep near Dam. On my face, my pene, my face toward the ground. And behold, a hand, common word for hand here, yad, touched me, naga, to touch, that set on my knees. And so the word, you recognize the word birkei is my knees, because again, the word for knee is related to the word that we use for bless, barak. But barku, that's kind of the blessing. Upon the palms of my hands.
so he fell on his hands and knees.
That's right. He was on his hand. He was not. The hand touched him, and he set him on his hands and knees. He wasn't standing upright. He was on his hands and knees. He said unto me, Daniel, O a man greatly loved. The word here for understand here is haven. The words that I am speaking, I'm wording to you, dover. And stand to, I stood for you. And I'm now sent unto, when he had spoken, to word this and stand, amadi, amad, to stand, trembling, and said to me, fear not to fear. For from the first day you did set your heart on understanding, and to chase yourself before Eloheka, your God, your words were heard. So we can derive from this that from the first time Daniel began to pray about this, his words were heard. But similar, sometimes the answer is yes, sometimes the answer is no, sometimes the answer is not yet.
Yes, but later.
Yes, but later, yeah. Or just simply not yet. And that's kind of where Daniel's prayer was. The angel tells him his words were heard from the first time to pray, but as we see later, he says he came in response to your words, but he was delayed, right? He was delayed. The prince, the Tsar of Malkut Paras, the kingdom of Persia, stood me for 21 days. And then see or behold, Hine, Michael, one of the chief princes, Harishonim, excuse me. Hasurim Harishonim. The Rishon is the word here for chief or first, like Yom Rishon, first day of the week. The first or chief princes came to help me.
So was the angel of Persia stronger than the messenger angel?
It sounded like he was either stronger or of the same strength, so he couldn't get past him. That's what it sounded like. And so he needed the additional help. It may not. I mean, maybe it took a chief angel. We're not really. We don't know who. If we're talking to the prince of the kingdom of Israel is. We don't really know from this text at least who is speaking to Daniel right now. It doesn't give him his name or his rank. But it seems like if they're of equal strength, he could not get past him either.
Yeah.
You have to have something to overpower.
Stand off.
Yeah, right. Because we don't read that the messenger that speaks to Daniel was driven off by this. He was basically prevented from getting past him to come to see Daniel. And there I remained with the kings of Persia, and I've come to give what shall befall to your people. So this is a vision to your people, Amecha, your people, in the Acharit Hayamim. When I was reading it, I think I was reading this section. Acharit Hayamim, of course, is the latter days. So commonly used phrase in the latter days, the Acharit Hayamim. The last days, particularly, but or the latter days, how usually is translated. For yet the vision, this time it uses a different word for vision. Samara, it's using chazon. The vision, which he had spoken to the words, the Devarim. Such me, I set my face toward the ground and became mute. And behold, like the similitude of the sons of men. So, any other translation you think for similitude for
I was
yours?
gonna say, what does that word mean?
Verse 16.
Someone who looked like a human being touched my lips?
Yeah.
Similitude
is
looks
like.
similar to.
Yeah.
Looks like, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, because read the next verse, or next thing, like similitude of the sons of men, B'nai Adam,
Sons of Adam.
sons of Adam.
Sons of Adam.
Mm-hmm. Touch me again, word naga, to touch my lips, shafatai, my lips. And I opened my mouth and spoke and said to him who stood before me, Adoni, O my Lord, or O my Master. Again, used for vision is Mara here. The vision have turned my sorrows on, and I have not retained strength. Verse 17. For now, the servant Aved, a very common word for servant. Could be slave, but Aved is typically servant. I would say that Aved is someone who's obedient to someone else. See some comments on verse 16 saying likeness. Thank you. You can look at it. I would say you can see how Aved is translated into English, or the relationship is, because Aved is Hebrew, but Obed is maybe English, like obedience, because someone who is a servant is obedient. So Aved and so for example, Obadiah, servant of Yah. So you can see one who is a servant of Yah is one who's obedient to Yah. So obedience, I think, comes through that Hebrew language root.
I think it's interesting, both of those places use Adonai, and they're not using it in place of God's name.
It's Adoni, actually. It's my Adon, or my master.
Okay.
Because Adonai is typically for Yah alone, but
Correct.
Adon can be used for a human master or servant. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, Adoni.
Sorry, did you, Cece, are you communicating with Cece? Is she?
She's online. She's watching
Okay,
online.
Well, you said something, kind of piece of, which makes perfect sense.
Yep.
You talking to, she was here.
I'm talking to her digital likeness.
We all are.
As for me, straight away, me'ata, I did not retain my strength, and there's no breath left in me. And touched in one me like the appearance of a man, and he strengthened. So in other words, the touch of the one who is in the appearance. Again, the vision, this is Mara here, the word for typically as we had for vision previously, one like the vision of a man, Adam, and he strengthened.
Yeshua said to his disciples that we have food for you, or we brought you nourishment, or why don't you take nourishment? He says, I've eaten nourishment you cannot see or cannot know of. You know the scripture I'm talking about?
Mhm.
Said, and so I was, pondering for decades on the divine source of nourishment that he had had. And so anyway, it may be the same kind of angelic energizing.
Touch? Possible.
Hey, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't think of the exact scripture, which book.
And he said, no, don't fear. Do not fear. Oh man, Ish, Yara is fear. Greatly beloved. So,
An angel appeared to you, he said, do not fear, you think you wouldn't fear?
he told me not to.
Yeah, but,
Actually, everybody in the Bible who runs into an angel
mhm.
is pretty much, when the
It's like they
angels
gotta calm them down, or try to calm them
yeah,
down.
because it's do not fear, yeah. As they're on the ground. And you haven't even seen God.
I think Yeshua said the same thing when he came to the wall. He said, it's okay, it's me, freak you out.
I'm going to do a quick look up. This is verse 19. It says about Daniel, O man, greatly beloved,
He says that twice to him.
Hamadot. I want to take a look up back at verse 1. See, it's a similar word. Maybe maybe it's not verse 1. I think it was. Eaten. Yeah. So it's the same word used here in verse 3, where it's talking about the bread. Chamudot is the same word used for clean or white bread in verse 3, as we see down here in, was it verse what word was it? Was it
We were
16? 19, thank you. Because for greatly beloved, it's translated here, or pleasant as it was previously, or clean or pure as it might also be. So he's not, I mean, if you look at how verse 3 is translated as the kind of lechem, kind of bread being talked about there,
Is it the same as
So-
in verse 10?
verse
He's also
10.
greatly beloved there.
Let's see. Eleven, 10. Verse-
Green 10,
Okay.
he passed it.
I was wondering if that was the first part of it. Hold a hand, touch me. Set my knees. Hold my hands. I don't see,
Because it reads in here, 10, then a hand touched me and raised me, tottering to my hands and knees. Oh, 11, he said to me, Daniel, you are a greatly loved man.
it is, Hamadot.
So greatly loved in bread?
Greatly loved bread. That's why perhaps some of the translations call that choice food. For,
Greatly beloved.
mhm.
Interesting.
Very popular word
Oh.
nowadays. Hamud, Hamudah, Hamudim. Like when you talk to your children, is it Hamud? It's a good boy. It's somebody you love, somebody you care.
So again, we have a phrase we recognize, hazak, hazak v'hazak, be strong and be strong. So always, of course, when it's repeated, it's for additional emphasis, hazak v'hazak. He spoke to me, I was strengthened. And I said, speak, Adoni, my master, for you have strengthened. Then said, know you why I come to you now? I will return to fight with the prince of Persia when I am gone forth, and see the prince of Greece shall come. But I will show to you that which is noted in the writing of truth. And yet there is one who holds within these things for Michael, your prince. So the prince is coming with Egypt, with Greece, right? This perhaps is a prophecy here as well, because what's going to happen to the empire of Koresh or Cyrus?
Greece is next, isn't it?
Well, Greece, as in Alexander the Great, is going to crush Darius, and Xerxes will lose against Greece, but ultimately Alexander the Great will destroy Darius.
Is this all following along with the statue that was made of
Sequence of events, yeah, is I think is Babylon, then Greece. Yeah.
governing the kingdom or whatever?
hmm So
The
sequential.
statue we've made,
Right, what a statue.
The statue
With the
in
gold
in
and
Daniel.
the silver and the bronze and the feet of clay.
Yeah.
Feet mixed, clay with mixed with something else.
With
Right,
iron.
which is-
Did you say Daniel
Meant
7?
clay and iron.
Did you say Daniel 7?
I don't know where it's at.
You see it in 7 and 9, I think. There's two different versions of similar sorts of things. Yeah. Same sequence, though, I think. That brings us to the end of
I have a question.
Daniel chapter 10. Yep.
After all this time, these numbers at the top, I can't piece what these numbers may refer to.
I believe those are Strong's numbers.
Oh, concordance, okay, concordance.
Oh, yeah, that's a strong reference. Where do you find it?
Mm-hmm. All right, well,
Time to eat?
it could be. Let's pray. But thank you for allowing us to midrash on your word, giving and for giving us the freedom to do that. We thank you for this in Yeshua's name. Amen.
Okay. Okay. Abigail's going to company. Good girl, Molly. You settled really nicely for that last part. Oh. Okay, let's see. Good girl. You may break